did get their lone touchdown of the night, but he was held to 20 yards on, I believe, 14 or 16 carries.
Holy smoke, he took a beating.
Yes, it is. The new offensive line at Wren that they brought in this year after losing 4 seniors is just it's struggling to find consistency. I think. Last week they beat Pickens 42-12. Looked like they had a good game, and then they play a step up in competition against Seneca, and it just feels like that they're not able to find that even flow right now. And this week it doesn't get any easier. They play Daniel at Daniel.
Yeah.
So and as I said, it looks like Daniel may have turned around their season after their early season slump of starting 0-3. They've now won 2 straight, including this past Friday when they beat Palmetto 37-7. The game ended early. There was a serious injury to a Palmetto player.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened there.
Apparently there was, I believe, head or neck injury.
Yes.
I never heard who the player was.
Right.
I would not put his name out there just because it's his own privacy right now.
Sure.
But both teams came out. They showed to have support for that young man. Training crews, I heard, came out. They put him on a backboards, did everything to make sure.
Stabilized him.
There was good news. He was moving his hands and feet, and he was aware at the time.
Well.
So I think he'll probably be okay. Still a very scary moment. Puts a lot in perspective of what we do with our careers here, following sports. These are still young athletes and still children.
They got about a million more things important than these sports. They just don't know it yet.
Yes.
But that's true.
But the game was called early. It was 37-7 at the time. I think both coaches just said, this is over.
Don't have the heart to
there's
depend. Yeah.
There's no reason to keep playing, especially after something like this. No one's focused. Let's just call it a day and get ready for next week. And that was probably a smart decision to make on both coaching staffs.
Yeah, I'm sure both those coaches understood that the oxygen just goes away. And Doug Shaw's been around a long, long, long time, so he understands these things and he cares for his kids.
Yeah, and, I've experienced a game like that before myself. A few years ago, I was at West Oak, and I forgot who the opponent was, but there was a player from West Oak that it was a running play. I still remember it to this day, as vivid in my head as if it happened yesterday. Player put his head down trying to get an extra yard. Defender put his head down. They met shoulder to head on each other. Both fell back. The opposing kid got up. The kid from West Oak didn't. Turns out it was a similar situation. His hands and feet were moving. He was fine.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I honestly didn't want to cover the game anymore. I was ready for it to be over after that. And a lot of coaches felt that same way. The players felt the same way about that situation. So that's something you see it, and I don't think you ever forget even covering a game like that.
And I'm sure most people are aware that a bad situation happened in Athens. Southern University had a player who went down and had a neck injury of some sort, apparently. And the trainers, doctors, coaches, everybody from the University of Georgia jumped right in there, and they made sure they got him to the hospital, they got his family, and they took care of him best they could. And now the Georgia people are raising money. The last I heard, he had not moved his lower extremities, and I'm just saying that maybe I shouldn't even say it because I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's you hope for the best in those types of situations. And as we said earlier, from all the reports that I've heard, limited as they are, the young man from Palmetto appears to be doing okay. I think it was one of those things where they were just taking every precaution necessary to make sure nothing was wrong or nothing would go wrong, transporting him to get tested.
In all the high school games I've seen and broadcast, I cannot remember any injury that appeared to be that dangerous at the time to anybody. And of course, I've seen season-ending injuries with knees and legs and arms and shoulders, but that kind of thing. But let's don't talk. I need to move. I don't want to talk anymore about that thing.
Yes. But getting back into it, as we said, Palmetto this week, they are coming off that loss, and doesn't get any easier. They play Seneca this week.
Oh, that's awful.
If there is a bright side to it for the Mustangs, there's my wife trying to call me again.
Okay. That's all right.
I'm going to put this phone on silent, so I know I love Ella Fitzgerald. Some of your listeners may like it, but...
I played a lot of her records on the radio.
All right, we can continue now.
All right.
As with Palmetto, if there is a bright side to next Friday's game, it closes the Murderers' Row that they have started their region slate on with BHP, Daniel, and Seneca all back-to-back 3 straight weeks. So, all is not lost for Palmetto's season after this week. The schedule gets much more manageable with games against Walhalla, West Oak, and Pickens 3 in a row before they close the season with Wren. So, very good chance they could be 3-3 in the region heading into that season ender with Wren having a shot to.
And they should have a shot against Wren unless something, really bad happens.
If they can manage, if they can get through this week, navigate the next 3 weeks, and get wins over Walhalla, West Oak, and Pickens, they will set themselves up to possibly have a shot to get that final playoff spot in the region and make the playoffs for the first time in a while. So, have faith, Palmetto fans. There's the worst part of the storm is almost over for you guys, I think. So.
All right, Mustangs.
But that closes out for 3A. Of course, West Oak and Walhalla, they're going to be looking to score finally this week. Interesting matchup. Walhalla will play Pickens this week, so
that'd be
more or less interesting for the coaching matchup. John Boggs returns to Walhalla for the first time since he left to coach Westside.
Right
now, coaches Pickens,
and they're pretty good rivals too.
They are, and Jeremy Grogan, the coach at Walhalla, he used to work under Coach Boggs, so there's that. Be kind of a homecoming for Coach Boggs. I think it'll be an interesting game. Could be a fun one to watch as well. But moving on now to Skyline 2A play. Pendleton moved to 2-0 in the region with a 38-13 beating over Blacksburg. So a good win for them. 2 weeks in a row now, quarterback Gibson Black has turned in good performances for them. He came off a 300-yard performance over Chesney 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he was one of our touchdown club players of the week.
Yes, he was. And this week didn't quite have the 300-yard performance, but again, strong out, and I believe about 260, 270 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. And he was efficient, 16 of 20 this week. So, good 2 weeks for him.
Sounds like an excellent game.
It was a good week for him. 2 good weeks for Pendleton. This week, the schedule gets probably one of their key games of the year. They play Woodruff this week. Woodruff comes into this game as well, 2-0, after they beat Powdersville this past Friday, 40-21. Whoever wins this game gets a huge leg up in the Skyline 2A region at 3-0 and will likely have the inside track to winning that region title. So big game this week for Pendleton. One of our riders will not be covering it because it is at Woodruff. So best of luck to Pendleton on making that road trip.
How do you get those reports then? You depend on somebody at the school over there?
Usually our coaches will send us a box score for that, hopefully.
Yeah, okay.
Or they'll call it in. So hopefully we'll have something in the paper Saturday morning for y'all to read about how that game went. I have some sources on Twitter that I use as well that send me updates throughout the night. So hopefully we'll have something to put in the paper for you guys to read about. But again, this is a big game for them. Woodruff is a team that is known for passing the ball. They're a quality program. They win a good bit of games now.
Historical.
And so, but like I said, this will be this is the key test for Pendleton this year. It looks like they've already beaten the defending region champion Chesney. Blacksburg is a team that typically gave them trouble in the past. They've beaten them. If they beat Woodruff, they have a very manageable road.
Sure do.
To win the region title because the following weeks they play Powdersville, a good team, but a team Pendleton can beat. Carolina of Academy, which is a team Pendleton typically beats. Liberty, who is struggling this year, and they end the season with Landrum.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a tricky game, but still a team Pendleton typically beats. So the season is there for Pendleton to decide this Friday if they want to. So, as I mentioned, key game for the Bulldogs this week. A win gives them an inside track to win that region title.
Yeah. Okay.
Sticking in Skyline 2A. As I mentioned, Powdersville lost to Woodruff last week to drop to 1-1 in the region. This week they play Landrum. So Landrum is also 1-1 in the region. This game could go a long way in deciding a playoff spot, even though it's early. You get to 2-1, you're still in a good hunt for a playoff spot. At 1-2, you're still in the hunt, but it's a lot harder.
It's a lot harder.
So
there's no room for mistakes.
If you fall to 1-2, you basically have one game left. If you lose another one, you're pretty much out of a playoff spot. So big game for the Patriots this week as they host the Cardinals. And finally, Liberty fell to 0-2 with their loss to Landrum last week. This week they get Chesney. Chesney is not as good as they were in the past, but they are now 1-1 in the region because they won last week. It looks like they may be getting ready to turn some things around. And Liberty is just they are struggling on offense this year. Since entering region play, they have been outscored 54-21. So they have got to get some things sorted out this week. They fall to 0-3. It's a long shot for them to make the playoffs. So big week for them as well to at least stay in that hunt somewhat. Whenever Chesney would do that.
Yeah, it would.
But as you mentioned, the margin of error at 0-2 is razor thin. They lose another game, they're probably much out of playoff contention.
Probably, I would think so.
Finally, Crescent. As we know, last week Crescent was on a bye week. Last week, they come out of the bye at 3-2, losers of their last two. Losses coming to Palmetto and Class 4A River Bluff. We've already voiced our opinions on the River Bluff game, why that went, why that happened. This week, congratulations, Crescent. Off your bye week, you get to play the number 2 team in the state in Class 2A. So, congratulations, you get Batesburg Leesville. But they have a chance to pull an upset this week, and if they do that,
where's that game?
That is going to be that's here at Crescent. So,
so that helps.
So at least they are in in Iowa this week. But Batesburg Leesville, they are very, very good this year. They are talented across the board. They have more bodies than Crescent does right now.
Crescent has been decimated with injuries.
They have,
and I don't think they had that big a squad before they.
No, their roster was pretty cut. Their roster was pretty thin. And most of the injuries they had were season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
So there was no coming back. The one that was coming back from was D.D. Hull, the running back. He's had a week to hopefully get better, take some of that soreness out of his back that he had against Palmetto.
Yeah.
So if he's back, they have a shot because he can carry them on offense. The question is, can Crescent slow down Batesburg Leesville's offense? They're number 2 in the state for a reason. They're good.
Yeah.
So this will be a big game for them. This opens Region 2 2A play this week for them. And schedule doesn't get much easier. Next week they play Strom Thurmond. It lightens up after that a little bit with games against 96 and Saluda. But then they close the season against Abbeville. And that is the game I am trying to get to on my schedule.
Sure.
One, because as you know, as sports writers, we like a quick game. Crescent and Abbeville both run the ball.
They don't throw it around.
So that game could be done in about an hour and 20 minutes. That's why I'm looking forward to it. But, it was overall, it was a good week for some schools, but there's also a lot of the pecking order was decided a little bit in Western 3A and Skyline 2A. Look for some of that now to start materializing this week for Region 1 4A. Teams that move to 2-0 in that will definitely start separating themselves, I think.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see if Hannah and Westside can be 2 of those separation schools. And as far
now Hannah is going to win. That's flat. They're going to win.
I think they are hoping to so they can just have a nice homecoming for once.
That's right.
Easley has given them problems. In the past,
down through the years, yeah.
Whatever reason, and it always seems that way no matter who you are as a team. You always have the other team that for whatever reason they always give you trouble. I remember the Braves when I was growing up. They always had trouble with the Expos.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And then it turned into the Florida Marlins, even though the Marlins were terrible. They could not beat the Marlins. So right now, for Hannah, the Easley Green Wave are basically the Florida Marlins for the old Atlanta Braves.
Well, I don't predict many of these high schools, but I do think Hannah is gonna beat Easley. I really do. It's homecoming.
I've watched both teams play, and you are